In the first scene, we meet a journalist named Justin Sanderson, who is well known for his investigative skills. He is presently at the airport, getting ready to fly to Tel Aviv, Israel. As he enters the terminal, he finds a familiar book titled The End of Civility on a shelf. It comes out that the book is his brainchild. Curious, Justin approaches the bookcase, only to run into a fellow traveler called Joe Beaumont. Joe recognizes Justin right away and expresses his admiration for his work. He then enthusiastically requests an autograph. To express his gratitude for his fans' support, Justin personally purchases and autographs a copy of his book for Joe. Later, while waiting in the airport terminal, Justin chats on the phone with his wife. She claims to be saddened by his leaving, stating she will be lonely. However, Justin claims that he observed something really odd, which prompted him to embark on this expedition to learn more about it. As the two continue to converse, a strange string of coincidences draws his eye. The flight number is 1015, and the date is October 15th. Furthermore, due to an unanticipated delay in the departure time, the plane will now take off at 10:15 instead of 9:30. After some time, the passengers, including Justin, board the awaiting aeroplane. As he walks in, he finds a family having trouble with their seating arrangements. They are having difficulty adjusting their children. Surprisingly, Justin provides the family his own seat, graciously fulfilling their requirements. He then returns to the main cabin compartment and rejoins Joe. Justin is settling into his new seat when he notices a strange MP3 player tucked beneath the seat in front of him. Intriguing, he plugs on earbuds and begins listening to Enigmatic, a podcast offering an episode titled The Tragic Mystery of Flight 1015. Surprisingly, the narrator is referring about this same flight. He claims that the aeroplane will vanish off the radar in the following hour, never to be seen again. Hearing this, Justin becomes fascinated and keeps listening to the program. The narrator of Enigmatic then discloses the flight captain's identity, which is Donna. This ultimately concerns Justin, so he encourages a fellow traveler to listen to the podcast in the hopes that he is mistaken. However, the man politely declines and moves to a different seat. As a result, Justin feels forced to continue listening to the podcast, unable to escape the growing discomfort. In the following chapter, the narrator predicts that a bird will collide with the aeroplane at 10:21. To Justin's surprise and dismay, a bird does actually attack the plane at the precise moment specified, exacerbating his stress. In an attempt to restore his composure, he runs to the loo and attempts to calm himself by repeatedly telling himself that the past is the past. After that, Justin returns to his seat and phones one of the flight attendants to inquire about the bird accident and the strange engine sounds. However, the flight attendant claims to be unaware of any such events. He even denies Justin's request to speak with the captain, stating he doesn't want to cause a disturbance. In reaction, Justin yells angrily, something he hasn't done in his life. But he quickly realizes his error and apologizes to the flight attendant, telling him that he will stop talking. With this calm, Justin begins the podcast, in which the narrator predicts that the jet would leave at 11:15 p.m., with the pilot's parting words, "Good night, New York." When he hears this, he becomes even more irritated and restless. So Justin eventually gets up to look for some answers. He quickly realizes that the passengers on this trip can view the pilots in the cockpit via a network of cameras. According to the podcast, the baffling conditions might be the result of a device interfering with the flight's communication system. Justin is suspicious of two foreign men who are engrossed in their electronics. He then approaches them and demands that they switch off their phones. On response, the two males claim that their phones are on airplane mode. This irritates Justin, and he engages in a dispute with them until flight attendants interfere and tell him to return to his given seat. Following this, Justin looks deeper into the podcast and discovers Igor Orlov, a fellow passenger on the same aircraft to Tel Aviv. He's going to testify against the Russian mob, it turns out. This leads Justin to believe that the aeroplane was destroyed as a result of mafia participation. However, he believes that there is a good likelihood that an undercover U.S. air marshal will be on board, with critical knowledge about the aircraft's safety. With this fresh knowledge in hand, Justin approaches a flight attendant once more and wants to meet with the air marshal. However, the flight attendant, understandably irritated by his continuous questions, asks him for a tremendous favor in order for him to stay in his seat. With no one else to turn to, Justin confides in Joe. Joe, a pilot, claims that the air marshals frequently have a deceitful attitude similar to that of terrorists, unwittingly pushing Justin to check the Russian passengers' possessions. Justin then slips inside the luggage compartment of the Russian passengers and begins inspecting their bags while they are sleeping. The other passengers on the plane notice, but Justin continues. He accidentally dumps a backpack on one of the Russian guests while attempting to unlock the overhead cabin. This makes a commotion, and the two men begin bickering. Just then, Justin reveals that the Russian mob plans to kill Igor Orlov, driving everyone into a frenzy. Even Igor Orlov comes from the first-class section, concerned and terrified. Captain Donner steps out of the cockpit to address the situation and instructs Justin not to cause any additional difficulties. Other passengers begin filming him as well, causing Justin to return to his seat quietly. Following that, he restarts the podcast, and the narrator suddenly discloses that Justin is intimately tied to the flight's disappearance. He also plays recordings of Justin's prior argument with the Russian passengers. This renders our protagonist dumbfounded, but before he can respond, Captain Donner transports him to the flight attendant's dock and confronts him about his irregular behavior. However, Justin continues to argue and urges the pilot not to say goodnight, New York, since that will be the last thing they hear before the jet disappears. This persuades the captain that Justin is mentally ill and having a psychotic episode. Soon later, the air marshal exposes her identity and arrests Justin for endangering the entire aircraft. Justin is now seated next to the U.S. air marshal, who informs him that he will receive urgent psychiatric care as the plane touches down. Nonetheless, Justin tries to persuade her that he is not experiencing a mental breakdown and claims to have evidence of what is about to happen. However, this is insufficient to persuade the air marshal. She then approaches the pilot for a talk. Joe approaches Justin while she is away and shows his faith in him. He also believes that simply being on this level represents the field of possibilities. After careful contemplation, Justin suggests that Joe, who is a pilot himself, take charge of the plane and land it in Canada or somewhere safer before it disappears. Joe, on the other hand, needs a password to get into the cockpit. Justin is quite certain that the code is 1015. Because everything here revolves around that number. With this knowledge, Joe enters the cockpit, incapacitates the captain, and seizes control of the plane's operations. This causes the passengers to panic, but before they can respond, Joe reduces the cabin's air pressure, forcing everyone to lose unconscious. In an unexpected change of events, he suddenly says the chilling words, "Good night, New York." Later, we find Justin waking up on the coast of an island, close to a floating doll. It becomes clear that their plane has crash-landed on water. Justin panics and glances about, but there are no other individuals in sight. He soon discovers the same MP3 player and chooses to play it again. The narrator of the audio proceeds to explain the second section of Flight 1015. According to the story, an intensive search for the flight was launched, but the efforts were useless. After many days, a cargo ship luckily located a little strip of land where all of the survivors, with the exception of one, had managed to survive. The narrator recounts Justin Sanderson, who was reported missing after being unable to be found anywhere on the lonely island. Justin looks up at the same time and notices the whole aircraft crew and passengers approaching him. Understandably upset by the circumstances, they blame Justin for the plane disaster and begin violently assaulting him. As a result, he tragically dies. And the story ends. Subscribe for more videos like this. Turn on notifications and leave a like to help the channel out. Thank you for watching.